Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Ms. Skokin. We're back in AP Statistics Chapter 2, Modeling Distributions of Data. This time we're taking a look at Section 2.2, Density Curves and Normal Distributions. We have quite a few objectives in this section, so this video may be in one, maybe in two. To begin with, we have estimate the relative locations of the median and mean on a density curve, estimate areas, or proportion of values or probabilities. We're going to think of those all as the same thing in a normal distribution. Find the proportion of z values in a specified interval or a z-score from a percentile in the standard normal distribution. Find the proportion of values in a specified interval or the value that corresponds to a given percentile in any normal distribution. So that's working backwards. And I realize you may not know what a lot of this stuff means right now, but you will. And last of all, determine whether a distribution of data is approximately normal from graphical and numerical evidence, or if it's not normal, and we will call that assessing normality. We're going to start by recalling how we looked at data in Chapter 1. And we decided that we really could gain a lot of information by plotting the data. So we're always going to start out with a graph of some sort in quantitative data. Then we're going to look for the pattern, including departures from the pattern, such as outliers. And last, we were calculating numerical summaries to be able to describe and understand the data a little bit more fully. We're going to add something to this strategy now, and that is that sometimes we choose not to only look at the specific bars in our histogram, but sometimes we choose to put a curve over the top of it. And that's when we call it a density curve. So here's a picture of a density curve in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. A density curve follows some specific rules. First of all of the area is above the axis. There's no negative area. So all of the area is above the axis. And second of all, it is going to always be considered that the area under the curve is equal to 1 or 100%. And that makes sense when we look at these as probability distribution curves. We know that probability totals up to 100%. So this particular density curve, or histogram with a density curve on top of it, is a histogram of the scores of 947 7th grade students in Gary, Indiana on a vocabulary test that they took. Now, when we have these graphs, what are we interested in? Definitely, we already said numerical summaries. So when we talk about the median is going to be looked at as the equal areas point. When we look at a density curve, where approximately do we have half the area on the left and half the area on the right? And that's not axis value, that's area under the curve. So between the curve and the axis. The mean of a density curve is going to be, if you can imagine, where we would put our pencil if it were holding up the horizontal axis of the density curve. Where would we put it so that it would be perfectly balanced? And that balance point is going to be where we would find the mean. We know that when we have a symmetric or approximately symmetric distribution, the mean and the median are very close to one another. And we know that when we have a skewed distribution, the mean is pulled towards that extreme tail. So here we see on the left-hand side a symmetric distribution, or approximately symmetric, where the mean and the median are exactly the same. Since these are perfect density curves, they really are exactly the same. But on the right-hand curve, we can see that the mean is closer to the tail. So the mean is pulled towards the extreme values because of those extreme values. And so that means the mean is always going to be on the tail side compared to the median. Curve is an idealized version of our data, which means it's kind of like those perfect functions that we learned about in algebra. So we know that the data is not going to exactly follow the curve, but it's so close that it really ends up being a very useful model for us to use. In terms of notation, remember that the mean, if we're looking at the population, is going to be the Greek letter mu, and the standard deviation is going to be the Greek letter sigma, which is what we'll be using for the density curves. When we talk about density curves, one of the ones that should come to mind is the normal distribution curve. And the normal curve is one that we see in heights, in weights, in tree widths, in growth patterns in nature. So it's a very, very useful curve for us to use. All normal distribution curves have the same characteristics. They're all symmetric, single-peaked, and bell-shaped. They are density curves, so all of the area under the curve is equal to 1, and there are no negative or values below the axis. The normal curve is defined by its mean and standard deviation, so we actually use notation with that capital N for normal, open parentheses, mu, comma, sigma, to indicate the mean and the standard deviation of a normal distribution. Those are the values that really define the normal curve. Now, where can we know the mean is going to be in the middle at the peak. The standard deviation can be located easily by finding the point where we see the curvature change on the left-hand side of the peak and the right-hand side of the peak. So we're going to look at that. And when I say curvature, we can talk more about that in class, but it's basically where you see it upward facing versus downward facing on the curve. That's where that changes. That's where we see that standard deviation point. We're going to start to look at this as the mu is the middle, and the standard deviation can be to the left or below the middle or the mean, or it can be above. So it's going to be a plus or minus kind of situation. Distribution curves are super important in statistics because they describe so many different types of behavior, and in some cases they approximate other types of behavior. And when I say that, we're talking about probability. So we will be looking at those throughout the year, and we'll use them almost exclusively once we get to our inference chapters, which is the second half of the course. There's something called the 68, 95, 99.7 rule that students who have taken AP Psychology, have learned about, and it basically says how much of the data and how close it is to the mean. So the 68 stands for 68%, and 68% of the data in a distribution, if it falls under a normal probability distribution, is within one standard deviation of the mean. That's on the left and on the right. So it's a mu minus sigma on the left and a mu plus sigma on the right. The 95 means 95% of the data falls within 2 standard deviations of the mean, and the 99.7 is 3 standard deviations within the mean will encompass 99.7% of the data. So we still see that there are some extreme values both on the left and on the right, but those are outside that 3 standard deviation area, so they are pretty unusual values in our distribution. If we calculate the z-score for every single value in our data and we graph that, the shape will be exactly like our original shape, but the scale is going to be different. So when we scale the four z-scores, the axis, instead of being the axis that's appropriate for the original data, is going to be a z-score axis. And it's going to have the exact same shape, but if you can imagine plugging in for x for each value, we plug in the mean, or mu. Mu minus mu is going to give us 0. So our z-score for the mean value is going to be 0. That makes sense. And the standard deviation is going to be 1. So for every standard normal distribution, which again is going to have the same shape as the original normal distribution for the original data, but it's going to be scaled differently. Every standard normal distribution has a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. We have a lot of features on the calculator that do a lot of really neat things for us, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop using Table A, because sometimes it's really faster for us to use Table A. And to use Table A, which is a standard normal table, we're going to use the z-score to 2 decimal places. So the column, the z column, and the z row are going to indicate to us where we're looking and what the z-score is. If we're trying to find the proportion of observations from the standard normal distribution that are less than 0.81, that means we're using a z of less than 0.81. We're going to go down the z column to 0.8, and then we're going to go across the z row to 0.01. So that gives us 0.81. where those two intersect is the area under the curve, or the proportion of observations under the standard normal distribution. In this case, 0.7910. And we can see what that means is 79% of the data, or of the area under the curve, is shaded. We shade from the left, so it's from negative infinity to the z-score of 0.81, which represents approximately 79% of the area under the curve. Trying to determine the area under the normal distribution, we can either use table A or we can use our calculator, but what we're always going to use is a sketch and shade. We're going to start by figuring out what we're trying to find. So read the problem, figure out what you're trying to find, and then make a sketch so that we can see exactly what's going on. We can make a determination, are we reading from the left? Do we need an area that's on the right? Do we need the area under the curve between two z-scores or between two values? So what we want to do is set ourselves up for success by starting with a sketch and shade. So we are going to use a calculator feature called normal CDF. Normal CDF gives us area under the curve for the original values or on the standard normal curve. So we'll see exactly how that works in class. And then once we are able to do that, we're going to answer the question, but always verify against your sketch. When we work backwards, when we're given area under the curve and we're trying to find the mean or the standard deviation or the specific data point, we're going to need to work backwards, which means we're going to either use inverse norm, or we're going to start by looking in the middle or on the inside of table A and work our way outward towards the z-score. Okay, assessing normality is a huge topic, and there's actually a separate video for that one showing an example. But basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to take data, a set of data, and we're going to analyze it. What is the distribution of the data, and does it actually follow the 68, 95, 99.7 rule in terms of how far away the data is from the mean? And if it does, if it starts out being very skewed, we know it's not going to be. If it starts out approximately symmetric, we know there's a possibility, and then we dig a little bit deeper. So we're going to use the empirical rule to help us out, but another tool that we have is called the normal probability plot. And the normal probability plot is when we graph all of the z-scores. And when we graph the z-scores, if they turn out to create an approximately linear pattern, then we know that the original data is approximately normal. If the normal probability plot comes up with a curved pattern, then we know the data is not approximately normally distributed, the original data. Okay, that does it for section 2.2. We made it in one video, which is awesome. Take a look at the different things that we learned how to do. And of course, as always, begin your practice problems because that's where most of the learning is going to take place. See you in class.